Okay, welcome to the Virtual Lens Summit. Today we're honored to have Fujinon on. They are the first manufacturer to be a two-time participant in the Virtual Lens Summit. They were, I think, the second one, and now they're the 19th, so that's pretty exciting. People ask me how long is this going to go on. I go, well, it's probably going to go on until the next round of lenses come, and then it'll just keep going in circles, and that's what's going on right now. They're going to be introducing their Fujinon Premista 19 to 45 variable prime lens that's sort of set up for Steadicam and handheld as well as gimbal work. It's about an inch shorter and a pound lighter than the other Premistas. Tom can talk more about that. In the camera on that has the name Rufus has that lens on the feed. It's lower. I'll pin the video. Actually, I think you can pin the video just to see it. Carrie Fouts, our lens tech, has set it up. It's always sort of a dumbed down feed and looks not so great on Zoom with the processing of the image. But anyway, Tom, take it away.
Did you get a chance to project the lens, Michael?
Oh, yeah, we projected it. It looks really nice. It's super rectilinear and edge to edge beyond frame, really held up well. I mean, Carrie said that she hasn't seen a lens hold up this well beyond the LF format, you know, so it's pretty impressive. And minimal chromatic aberration, you know, I mean, everything has a little bit, but just very slight. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really rocking lens, that's for sure.
Okay, well, good. Well, let me put this here. Audio shared. Number 2. See the screen, Stash?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So anyway, thank you, Michael, for having us back. And today you're going to have the following people that are going to be presenting. Myself, I'm from Chicago. Chuck Lee's from Los Angeles. Chuck, if you can say hello, you're gonna chime in. You don't have too much responsibility. Don't worry. I didn't mean to scare you there, Chuck.
You're muted, Chuck. You're muted, Chuck.
Oh, hello, everybody. I didn't know I was a presenter, but that's wonderful. Thanks. Bye.
Mark Cottrell from the UK. I don't know if he's on. I know he's actually selling his car today, so the guy might have come right now. He warned me that might happen. Stash Durbaz up in Canada.
Hello, everyone.
And Josh Ewing, who is on a ferry right now, trying to get to landline signal or an internet signal. And we also have Gordon Tubbs, who's all of our bosses. Gordon's on the call here. Just want to throw a shout out to Gordon.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody.
And then we're real fortunate to have Marco Messinger, cinematographer from Germany. And he's going to go through our blind lens tests that we've done and really kind of have a discussion about that. We really don't want to try to make this too much PowerPoint today. You know, just to summarize what we're going to do today is we're just going to review the lenses, you know, introduce the new lens, and then we're going to get to the blind tests, both the test of our lens against high-end primes, as well as against some zooms, other zooms, and then have an open discussion. That's really the goal of what we're trying to do here today. So with that, I do want to open with a short video of Bill Wage's ASC. He's a career Lifetime Achievement Award winner from the ASC for his work in television, as well as other body of work. He just kind of summarized a lot of points of how Zooms work in everyday production, but especially now during COVID.
Since the 19-90 came out and I started using it, I've not used any other zoom. It's changed the way I shoot because of the ease of operation, the ease.
Hold on, sorry, turn the volume up.
Since the 19-90 came out and I started using it, I've not used any other zoom. It's changed the way I shoot because of the ease of operation, the ease of not having to change lenses all the time, just reach down and change the focal length.
No one is beyond redemption.
That has made things go a lot faster, not only in feature films, but commercials and also TV series. One of the wonderful things about the digital revolution is the cameras are much more sensitive than film. That allowed me to use zoom lenses as opposed to primes. And with the optical quality of the Fujinon, it was not a compromise. This lens meant that I went in there with a camera body and a 19-90 zoom, and not a cart laden down with boxes and boxes of other lenses. And we would go a week with a camera and never change a lens. Plus, when the actors were doing an intense scene, being able to reach down and zoom in 5 millimeters to reframe to do another take can keep them in the performance. That's the biggest part of it. Therefore, when you cut it together, you see it. There's not fluctuation from shot to shot or angle to angle. And that's significant because ultimately it's about the actors. It's about the story.
Okay.
So with that, we just want to quickly review where we are. As most of you hopefully are aware, the existing lineup and the Premista includes the 28-100 at 2.9 and the 80-250 that holds the 2.9 out to 200 mil and then rolls off about a half a stop to 3.5 at the end. They are both 46.3 mil image circles. Close focus, as you can see there, at 2 feet 7 inches on the wider one, 4 feet 11 inches on the tele lens. Important to note, they have the exact same front barrel diameter at 114 mil. You can use your clip-ons if you want, your lightweight, your standard filters and things. When we talk about the Premista, we like to compare them to the Premiers, the HK Premiers. If you're familiar with the 1885 T2, a great, real popular lens, and optically in the same space as the Premistas. So when we compare to the Premiers, we're 28% shorter at 10 inches. They're both exactly the same, and 46% lighter at 8.3 pounds, exactly the same weight again as well. These lenses both have minimal breathing, beautiful bokehs. They both have the flange focus adjustment. They both have the exact same gear placements from the camera to allow for easy lens changes, both telecentric. They do come in the native PL mount, but we do have a solution for LPL, of course, as well. And they're that consistent classic Fujinon Cine look with the natural characters of it across both lenses and the whole family of Fuji Cine products. And the feedback we've been getting from the DPs that have been using them, the credits to date, is they're really intercutting well with the Zeiss Supremes and of course the signature primes from Arri. Last but not least on this slide, they both, the family of Premistas have the encoders in them and deploy the /I and then the extended data along with that. So we're real excited to see what's going to come from that in the virtual space, having that distortion and illumination compensation built into the extended data. So the new lens that we announced a few weeks ago is the wide angle, the new short lightweight wide. So it's a 19-45, a flat T2.9, as you can see here. It's a common 46.3 millimeter circle, a close focus at 24 inches. Again, the same 114 mil front barrel. So you don't, if you do change to this lens, we're not changing matte boxes, filters, any of that stuff. Now, when we compare this to the other two Premistas that are exact same size and weight, the wide angle is 10% shorter, coming in an inch shorter, and it's 14% lighter, about a pound lighter. So really enabling more of that lightweight work. It's got all the same features, all the same looks that we talked about there as the other two Premistas. Also has the encoders with that /I and extended data.
Keep going, Stash.
So when we look at the family of lenses, here's the three. It is a true set of lenses that gives you that full coverage. There is no compromise in the quality compared to the primes. We're real excited to screen the Marco's test shortly. They're identically matched in terms of the look. You're going to get that consistency, that same Fuji look across all the different models. We're covering the 19-250, as we say, with this 3-lens kit. The same front barrel diameter, I touched on that, but again, I really want to emphasize that, and the same gear placements. Again, As we're changing lenses, that's going to be a nice quick thing. We don't have to reposition anything. We don't have to get a different matte box. We don't have to get different filters. Real excited at the efficiencies that that's going to be able to provide. And then the two being the same, with the wide being slightly smaller and lighter and supporting that metadata across all models. A couple of things that we just want to consider, as we all are excited to come out of the COVID, some of the advantages, some of the things to consider that the Primistas will bring you. We're going to speed up shooting. We want to minimize the number of touches to the camera. So having 3 lenses that cover that range. We want to make those lens changes, like I said, quick, efficient, fast. We don't want to slow things down unnecessarily. So that same front barrel diameter, the same ring positions, very similar in size and weight in terms of balancing, etc. And then having that extended data and the /I. And as virtual production seems to be picking up, both the LED wall, this is stuff that we're seeing with great frequency these days, having that metadata, that distortion, illumination mapping built into the lens, saving you some time in prep and also throughout the day shooting. So just as a quick review in terms of how we complement the sets of primes that are out there, kind of the market leaders relative to the full frame primes. We're seeing great coverage now from that wide end all the way through to the tele with the 3 Premista models available. So when we talk about wide angle, just how wide is 19 mil in full frame? What we're finding is in a lot of our conversations, we're comparing that to what's the equivalent in Super 35? Well, of course, that equivalent angle of view truly depends on the sensor you're using. Sadly, there isn't a standard today. So when we look at that, for example, the Sony Venice in full frame, the equivalent Super 35 mil angle of view of the 19 mil from the Premista would be a 13.2 mil lens. If we look to the Alexa LF and their large format, to get that equivalent angle of view in Super 35 3 perf, you'd need the 12.9 mil lens. And if we look to the Red Monstro or the Panavision DXL2, again, to get that same angle of view, you would need a lens that's 11.5 millimeters on Super 35. Now, to do the same kind of relative depth of field in terms of t-stop, what t-stop will we need in each of these formats to get that same shallow depth of field, you will, with the Premista at T2.9. On the Sony Venice, you'd need a 2.1. On the Alexa LF, you need a T2 and a 1.6 on the Red Monstro, as you can see from this great handy chart.
Hey, Stosh, do you have a chart like that you can put in the chat box?
I don't handy. We could potentially just put a screen grab of that slide.
Right.
I don't know if that's helpful or something. We do have a spreadsheet that has kind of all the different focal lengths. It's fairly large, so it probably wouldn't. Well, when I'm done talking, I'll see if I can dig something up and I'll throw it in.
I just think that'd be a really valuable thing for people because there's so much confusion over how wide is wide and long is long with the different large formats.
So next, we just want to talk about the advantages of a small, lightweight wide. That was something that when we talked to a lot of people, that's what they wanted for the next third lens. They want to be able to put it on a Steadicam. They want to be able to fly it like on the Airy Trinity unit here, or put it on a gimbal, or even going into a shot over type, unit. What we did with the first prototype that we got, we gave the lens to these camera operators here, and we have a short interview of their reaction to seeing the lens.
Fuji's new lightweight 19 to 45 mil Premista, I think it's going to be a game changer. As a camera operator, particularly operating things like Steadicam and gimbals, one of the issues that you face is that with full frame cameras, everything gets heavier, bigger. That includes lenses. And this particular lens, it's relatively small and relatively light.
Looking at it right here, I mean, look how perfect it fits and goes with the stabilized head with the Trinity, which would be perfect for any of the anti-grav rigs, Ronins or Movies. I mean, the size is absolutely brilliant.
I find myself in my work using wide lenses a lot because I'm trying to really portray speed. Car-to-car, aerials, establishments, cranes. Honestly, probably 50% of the work that I do, I could use this.
We don't use primes in helicopters. It's simply not feasible to land, take out a payload, change it, and get back up in the air. That could be a 45-minute process. With a lens like this, I can simply hit a button, and I can change to the next focal length, frame up, and continue shooting. Most people think that zooms don't have the same quality as primes. Well, you haven't tried this one.
For a Steadicam operator, having a wide-angle zoom lens is quite advantageous because, of course, you can change focal lengths almost instantaneously.
The efficiency of just being able to put it on and have that range without any other alterations is just brilliant. It's something we've been accustomed to having in our 35mm world, and now here we have it for a full frame, and it's even more compact, which is mind-blowing.
In terms of coverage, this lens is good to go for the Sony Venice, the Red Monstro and the Alexa LF.
Reds, DXLs, this is the perfect combination for quick movement as you need it.
And of course, if you're using other lenses from the Premista range, this lens will cut in perfectly. And of course, the gear positions are exactly the same as the 28 to 100mm zoom. There's not that much re-rigging to do, even if you have to change lenses.
Really what blows my mind about the Premista is its weight. I mean, this feels like I'm barely even flying a prime.
It's always exciting to meet a new member of the family. In this case, the 19 to 45 Primista, full frame. It's got to be like 12 to 30 mil in Super 35. I mean, that's a game changer for us.
From 19 to 45 in full frame, it's ideal.
When shooting Super 35, very often you would put the 15 to 40 Optimo lens on. Well, in the large format world, I think this is going to be the lens to go to.
It's the perfect little zoom you need.
So with that, what we want to do now is dive right into the blind task. So the goal of this task was really to showcase the performance of the Fujinon zooms in relation to the industry's highest performing primes. In doing so, we really want to give productions the confidence that complementing the primes with a Fujinon zoom really isn't going to be a compromise optically. So with that, I would like to introduce Marco. Mr. Messenger.
Hello, hello.
And perhaps Marco can share with us a little bit about the setups and some of the, I guess, introduce your test.
Yeah, hello. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. Several weeks ago, right, in really crazy COVID times in Germany, we shot a big lens test here with several dozens of different prime as well as zoom lenses, and of course many Fuji lenses amongst them. We shot several hundred different setups, and you will see a very small part of what we shot right now. The stuff that we did for this exact video today is comparing a set of very high-end large format cinema prime lenses. So all of the primes belong to the same set of a manufacturer that I won't disclose with you, and the Premista zoom series, consisting at that moment of the 28 to 100 and the 80 to 250 lens. The 19 to 45 unfortunately wasn't ready as a prototype to be there, but as excuse, I'm shooting the whole video here today on the 19-45 and a Fuji GFX camera. So if you don't mind, you can see those 45 become
So we
crazy
actually
wide.
have two 19-45s live today. There's Rufus as well as Marco's cameras. That's awesome.
The camera is barely like 2.5 feet away from me. This is what you get, and I trust me, I'm a big guy, as you can probably notice. So it's very interesting that before we start with that, that people tend to test lenses only with, or a lot with projection these days. And unfortunately, many people are testing lenses with LED projectors. And this is something that bothered me because I'm shooting a lot of VFX stuff. And from here to then, I talk to my post guys and they tell me, hey, on the last set, we're wondering, things went crazy because they even tested the lenses and we saw the projection tests, but suddenly on set, the lenses turned out to show insane amount of aberrations. And this is actually happening because mostly in LED projection, or if you even build a test setup and light it only with LED light, you unfortunately missing a big part of that what our biggest light source in Mother Nature, the sun, gives us. So you're missing both infrared as well as ultraviolet light. Infrared is probably not as critical, but especially with ultraviolet light, you have the fact that CMOS sensors are very, very sensitive to ultraviolet light. And you have the fact that you probably had a lens on projection looking pristine, showing no aberrations at all, neither lateral or longitudinal, at least not visible ones. But as soon as you point it on a window frame lit by the sun or by a big HMI light that emits ultraviolet spectrum as well, it will show insane amounts of aberration. That's why we light it with all kinds of light. Of course, we had some LED in there, you will notice it, but we also had several ARRI M90s, 9K HMIs getting us a base light right through the windows in the back, 9 of them actually. And we had some tungsten lights on set, so we tried to at least accommodate the needs of some post-production guys we contacted before starting that video. And then yeah, I would just ask you, please, I do not know if Tom is doing the vote today, but it would be very interesting, Tom, probably you can set it up. I would ask you, which lens you think is the more beautiful one? And please, those ones who cheated already and watched the already existing test online, please don't vote. And as well, Fuji stuff, please stay out there, because I would be really interested what the Kerner Summit crowd here thinks is the more beautiful lens. And then we will see, yeah, what kind of lens it was. You will see two focal lengths, 50 and 135, both with both lenses, so the prime lens set as well as our Premista zooms. And I'm very curious, what do you think? What is the more beautiful set in here? I'm looking forward to our discussion. Thank you. And probably guide you a bit through. So you see, I built this setup of lighting tubes on the right side to have some judgment, both on bokeh rendering and bokeh fringing, but also on especially on lateral, on longitudinal chromatic aberration. You have a test chart that later on probably proves quite useful to check some contrast, and especially in the side-by-side shots. We actually shot the whole test on the Red Monstro full frame or full sensor. So we have those 8,000 by 8,192 by 4,320 pixels. We chose the Monstro to show you exact those magnifications. And because it's the highest resolution and as well the largest image circle, large format sensor right at the moment, even though of course there are Alexa 65s in the world, but I don't consider that large format anymore. And we use the Monstro Ranger to better sustain and have a more stable like sensor quality during the day, because the cameras have been hot there. Very important, we only used one exact camera position, so both have the exact perspective, the exact same point of view, both lens A and B. And of course, we compared both lenses at 0.9, down the prime lenses, and we use the Premista wide open. And probably some neat little fact I wanted to tell you, I was thinking about removing the, because Premistas get shipped with an with a protection filter in front, because Fujinon wants to protect the very expensive front spheric lens and lens element. Actually, we had all the Fujinon zooms as advantage because they have been, that's from our friend Hideyuki Kazai from Japan, because he asked to have the lenses been tested as most customers would use them, and most rental houses actually leave that front filter on to protect their investment. So besides that, we didn't even use matte boxes to have absolute comparability. And yeah, I'm really interested to hear your input now when we're switching on the 135s, because we also can provide a lot more footage. We already have this test in 4K and pretty soon in 8K online on Fujinon's channel on YouTube and Vimeo. And we will probably upload some more stuff and some more information there. You can also even see a comparison against another set of large format zooms. And yeah, I'm really interested in your feedback. What would you love to see? Because we had so many more setups. What interests you? Probably what bothers you? And why do you think one or the other lens is more beautiful in that or another regard? I try to give you some guidance and some basis for your decision with those magnifications and different kinds of tests. But for example, we have a stronger light source beside this flashlight. We even have a 2K LED, 2K tungsten light right behind her head, like at the end of the setup, like 70 feet behind her. And we have a really hardcore lens flare test. We kept this out here due to length and reasons, but if that or some other stuff interests you, we can try to publish here that here. And the discussion will become even more important, as I just noticed that we won't do a poll today. So then we're absolutely in need of your direct feedback to hear where things shall go. So shall we stop here shortly, or we just continue?
Yeah, no, I would say let's stop here just and see if there's any questions.
Yeah,
comments.
because just for you, we will continue with seeing both lenses wide open. That actually means the Premista, of course, stays at a T2.9, but the prime is shot wide open to show you the actual difference of that, what a prime can offer you these days. It's probably mostly a bit smaller size and, of course, a brighter aperture. And we want to show how that actually ends up influencing the image, and how much difference you get in depth of field and in look, and what are also the trade-offs of probably opening up lenses these days wide open, even with modern high-end lenses. But now I would be very interested in, like, what are you thinking? And please feel free to unmute yourself so we can hear you, see you. And I'm already reading, like, I'm reading Michael Tiemann. I prefer the face and skin tones of A. They're warmer, but the bulky quality of B. Tough choice, which is a win for zooms. Actually, I think so as well. Any creative feedback? Will 90-45 be available with an LPL mount? Yes, indeed, it will be available like the other lenses. For you, Matthew. Anyone else with some feedback, questions about the setup? Or no, I would really love to hear some people's guesses. Which lens is which? And I see Tim Smith here, but he knows already because he's been with us in that test already once. So
Neville asked a question. Have we tested this with an Alexa 65?
Sorry?
Neville asked a question if we've tested with the Alexa 65. I think you have some experience with that.
I tested the Premistas on Alexa 65, actually not on that test because it has a very oversized sensor of nearly 60 millimeter image circle, like 59.87. But what I can safely say that all Premistas at all focal lengths, key stops, focus distances cover the Alexa 65 16:9 mode, like the 16:9 5K 5 curve is completely covered by all Premistas. And to my personal surprise, the wide angle Premista that we're just announcing here is covering the Alexa 65 even with its full 60 millimeter image circle from 28 to 45 millimeters. Like those Japanese official numbers of 46.5 image circle are really, really low playing. I would say image circle wise, all the lenses have around 50 millimeter at least, and illumination circle far beyond that, probably 53 to 60, depending on the focal length.
And Mauro Fiore has actually shot a feature carrying our lenses, shooting in 5K with the Alexa 65.
Oh, that is quite interesting. Is that what we're seeing right at the moment?
No, this is Kerner.
This is 1945
on an LF Mini.
Kerner Portland.
Right at the moment. That's beautiful.
So you can see it's very rectilinear. Yeah.
What's kind of interesting is as you have to optimize a zoom lens, especially like a wide zoom lens for distortion at some point, and you have to say where it should be perfect. I think there was a very reasonable choice made by Fuji, not optimized for the middle of the focal range, but they actually optimized for the wide end. Like the lens, the 90 to 45 is absolutely pristine distortion wise at 19 millimeter up to 2021. Like this is the absolute sweet spot from distortion. And then you get some small slight barrel, even so slight barrel distortion that you also have the extended metadata to compensate for if you would so. But I loved it with the 19 to 45 because with that tiny amount of distortion at the long end, I can live much better than with the distortion at the wide end. Because at the long end, I'm probably even shooting faces or some close-ups. I'm kind of crazy. I always love 28 millimeter focal lengths, and I will love. I love 40, 45 millimeter on the large format. So that it was actually crucial for me in trying out the 19 to 45 on my first projects to have this 40, 45 millimeter of reach in large format. Because otherwise it would have been too wide, and now it's an absolute perfect usable range for Steadicam or gimbal. And it's also the right choice to have this.
And you've shown this lens recently to a cinematographer, and just what was the reaction from the rental house and the cinematographer?
Oh yeah, I was just in Prague together with Janusz Kaminski. I think he's prepping his HBO series there, and it was quite interesting because we were looking for the perfect match for a set of signature primes or two sets of signature primes he's carrying. And actually, like in the end, it turned out that the Premista set is the perfect match for him. And I think he goes now with all three lenses on the show, matching his signature. I think he's using a tweaked and an untweaked set, and no, they match beautifully, and it was very impressive. And especially also for them, this 19 to 45 range is crucial. It gives you 12 to 30 millimeters in super 35 terms, 12 to 32, and that is an amazing range. And just for you to say, like, you see no black corners up here, and I'm shooting all that on an absolutely oversized medium format camera with the Fuji GFX 100 right at the moment. As Michael Tiemann just told me, like, yeah, it's the best example, like how crazy the image circle of that lens is.
So do you want to go back to the test and show the?
Yeah, let's show them both wide open now.
Yeah, we show them, but I want to get back to Michael Tiemann. Yeah, he says he likes the idea of optimizing sharpness for the wide part, especially like regarding master shots with a lot of details or a landscape shot even, and also optimizing there. When we continue watching that, you now see the prime lens is lensy. You see that the Premista wide open at T2.9 is actually very free of color. What's really beautiful, and it's very homogeneous because if we look into the 135 lens, you can probably see that the Premista lens behave exactly the same, both bokeh and aberration wise, as you even with the highest sets of prime lenses, you could probably see some small shifts like in the behavior of aberrations or in the shape of bokeh or like here in the contrast. Because if you noticed earlier at T2.9, the primes, or as well as at T2.9, the prime showed a lot more contrast than we're seeing now on the color reference chart. But on the other side, like this 135 prime looks as good as the Premista in terms of aberrations. Like you have no visible aberrations there, a bit different from the 50mm prime that showed just a slight green shift. But on the other side, the 135 wide open, like it had great depth of field on the left side compared to our T2.9. But you're always having that at a small sacrifice of contrast, probably, as you saw on the chart. So yeah, thanks to my amazing crew who made this happen, even with restrictions, and to Red Digital Europe, who provided us the Monstro Ranger camera that brought us through those days. And I think the 31 terabyte Red Max that we had to shoot this test. And yeah, I'm looking forward hearing your feedback. We already had some people guessing which lens were which. Michael Tiemann was wrong with lens A, but I think as he said himself, it's a tough choice. And he liked both lenses, one for the skin tones, one for the bokeh quality. I would just direct the question to you, Michael, as you've been very active on the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, it would be interesting to hear, like, if that surprised you and what made you think that the zoom was lens A and not lens B.
What made me think that was just to me, getting that really perfect bokeh is the domain of the prime lens, and so the fact that the zoom lens was able to do such a good job of having a very uniform bokeh for the lights is remarkable. And I also, as far as the skin tone was concerned, I saw the left-hand side looking a little bit warmer, but also a little bit more, shall we say, monochromatic. There's a little bit more green. There's a little more variation of color of the skin tone on the right-hand side, and I thought that that would be due to the prime.
So,
okay, you want to roll the zoom footage too now?
Absolutely, I think.
Yep. Okay.
So here we have the Premistas again against a modern full frame zoom. Take it away.
Yes.
Same setup.
Both at a T3.0. Because the choice, let's say, at least for me, wouldn't be always that difficult, because the Premista is for me on par, at least with modern primes. Of course, it's always a matter of taste, but for example, I like the flares very much. With other modern large format zoom offerings, the choice is probably a bit easier for me than with primes, because yeah, let's say Fuji made the theoretical compromise of building zoom lenses quite a bit more interesting for me than probably some other manufacturer. And as we already closed the other lenses, I can probably help you here. Like, if you look here, clearly the right footage is the footage we've already seen. The left footage is actually the other zoom offering. And just for you, my gaffer didn't change the color temperature of those lights. This was actually, this blue hue was actually the natural chromatic aberration that gave this light a shift. And this was funny during the shoot on set, because I was actually thinking he was tweaking color temperature until he told me, no, Marco, this is a fixed tungsten light and you won't so about the light tree, so I wouldn't be even able to do so. But it appeared really bluish when we had the focus on the back of the wall. So here you can see zooms flare these days. Flares are a matter of taste. I love the Premista flare on the right side. It really looks like some of the most beautiful flaring lenses I am using. Like, everyone, of course, has its different taste, but I love K35s, even though they're Canon lens. Am I allowed to say that in the Fuji presentation? Yeah. I also like a Samylac C, and I love the flare of the Premista because the lens still keeps its contrast, but on the other side, it still gives you a beautiful flare. And actually having the contrast with the flare actually makes the flare even more pronounced, because you have the better black levels for the flare to separate against. And yeah, again, lens A is the other manufacturer's zoom. Lens B is the Premista. You can see here a bit of a longitudinal, and again, just a visible amount of lateral chromatic aberration. And here with the Premista, you can see it's absolutely sober, nearly like wide open light. It's a T2.9 lens here at T3, and it's just incredibly clean and sober. And you can also see, even though both Premistas are multi-aspheric lenses, featuring up to 3-4 aspheric lenses, lens elements, you see no polishing marks or onion rings in the bokeh, and I was very impressed by that. So yeah, closing in with the flares again. Of course, flaring in directly in a close shot in a 135 gets a bit crazy. But you see even here, like the overall image contrast is still quite well controlled. I really, really like that behavior. And you also see like the flare is pretty neutral color-wise. Like, it doesn't shift too much from the source, whereas with lens A, you had this reddish flare. Honestly, we were on the most challenging sensor flare-wise, because the Red Monstro optical low-pass filter is quite crazy reflective. But still, like, you see one lens was able to manage that and the other wasn't too much. And having all that in a package of like 3.5, like from European, 3.5 kilograms for 28-100 and 80-250, and like 3 kilograms for the new wide angle lens. It's absolutely incredible, because if I operate my A camera myself, it actually is less weight than Vantage anamorphic wide angle prime lens. So absolutely love that. So, and thank you very much, Fuji team, for having me trying out all those lenses on our lens test.
So we really would love comments and questions. That's what we wanted to have here is we heard some initial feedback after we did our press conference about our test, and we just wanted to be available to answer questions and hear your feedback.
So when are these going to be available, Tom?
This lens is going to be shipping in January.
In 19 to 45.
19 to 45, yeah, thank you.
The other two are shipping now and available at red houses around the world.
And just out of curiosity, I'm always interested to know how long it takes a company to develop a lens like this from concept to delivery or prototype.
I think we've probably spent 6 to 8 months researching what lens we wanted to, what focal lengths we wanted to have. And then once we decided that, it was about 1.5 years until we're going to deliver. So a little bit more than 1 year ago is when we first said, okay, we're going to go with this focal length 19 to 45.
And then down the road, are you gonna, I imagine maybe there's a longer one in the works?
We've had lots of discussions about that, coming up with a big long lens. And it's just a challenge to figure out what choice do you make, what T-stop do you want, how long do you want it? So we love feedback. So
I think a lot of the early feedback was very prominently in the park of small and lightweight rigs. You know, as we toured around and visited people, it became very apparent early, you know, that the mini Alexa and smaller camera bodies were everywhere we went, these little stabilized rigs. So the feedback from the marketplace that we got was very much small, lightweight, and as fast as we can go. And that's where these three, I think, were born. But certainly this is a family of products. So as Tom was saying, now we need to start thinking about the next lens. Or we've already been thinking about it, but we have to start making some decisions. And that feedback is so valuable. So, you know, having the smart focal length and appropriate overlaps with the rest of the family, and not getting too big and heavy either, right? So working.
Yeah, the 75 to 400 Premier is a very popular lens, and Chuck Lee, you know, he's really one of the fathers of Fujinon's digital cinema lineup of lenses. He and a gentleman by the name of Kasai really brought Fujinon into the cinema world 20 years ago. And Chuck is really arguing and pushing for the equivalent of like a 75 to 400 in large format to give people a long lens. I don't know if you want to
jump in here shortly. Actually, when I was with Janusz, he went for the same solution I had for my last project that I proposed to him. Instead of going to one of the already existing, I can talk about other brands' products, I'm a cinematographer. So instead of going with the Optimo Ultra, who has actually some crazy range because he has some incredible compressed image in mind, like for an opening sequence. Instead of going with this 400+ millimeter lens, he actually chose to use the 80-250 Fujinon together with a 2x expander. I do not know it in the end will be the latest generation of IBE, of the IBE 2x expander, or if it will be the Musashi 2x expander that I used lately, which was very good as well. But the fact that the Premista is such a high resolving lens, even at high frequencies, gives you the great advantage that you have so much resolution in the lens that even if you attach a 2x expander, the quality doesn't drop visibly, even though you're actually dividing the quality by half by using an expander. So actually that solution going with the 2x expander, even with the expander, so you're below 4.2, 4.3 kilograms. And that is an amazing opportunity compared to a 27-pound, 13-kilogram Optimo Ultra. And it then with a 2x expander, it gives you the 500 millimeter focal length. And I was happy with that. I'm looking forward what Janusz he's going with the solution as well. So that is expander.
Chuck, did you want to jump in with a comment? Chuck?
You're really cutting out, Marco.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Chuck? Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Well, about what? What do you want me to talk about?
I was just saying the 75 to 400 has been a popular lens for us with the Premier.
Yeah, it's roughly equivalent to a 150 to 600 in still, and that's pretty well known. But you know, the DPs that really like our Premiers, they really like the starting range of them. And the 28 to 100 Premista is essentially an 18 millimeter in Super 35. Well, everybody knows that. And 24 to 290 or 24 to 180, those are familiar starting points. And so is the 75 to 400 in the crowds that use them, which is pretty big. It's used a lot in music. It's used a lot in sports. And a very high-end telephoto. You can flip a 2x on it and still not suffer too badly. And so I like the Cabrio focal ranges. I like the Premier focal ranges, and so far I like the Premista focal ranges a lot. I think they speak to our customers that we're very involved with suggestions to the factory, as we all know.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I mean, a lot of people think that, or traditionally, you were sort of given a focal length range, and that was that. And I know Fujinon's been really active in obtaining feedback from their rental houses, end users, cinematographers. This particular lens, you know, there were a lot of discussions with Steadicam operators and what focal lengths and stops and weights and length that they wanted to see in the lens. And that was really nice to see. And I'm not sure all the other manufacturers are so active doing that, but I know that Fujinon is very active with that.
Yeah, and we're seeing, you know, new focal ranges come out in zoom lenses, which is great. It's not necessarily the industry standard in Hollywood, though. I mean, there are certain lenses that, honestly, the Optimal Ingenu's great lens, been out forever. Those are very established ranges, and Panavision has very similar. So we're not trying to reinvent the you know, the tools. And we want to make sure we have the right crossover points in zooms. We want to make sure we go wide enough. You know, could you make it wider? Yeah, we could, but how often is that super wide used versus having a 3-lens set that covers from, you know, 19 to 250? So I think our factory is very smart, is what I think. Or we've been very lucky, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I just like to offer a thought. I think that in your introductory video where you showed the consistency of the lenses empowering people to use a set of tools to their utmost ability, you've got sort of a very well-defined set of use for all that gimbal work and helicopter work and just, you know, making it all work within a particular form factor. And then you kind of go to a completely different part of the evolutionary tree when you start looking at how big would a long lens need to be on a Monstro. And I do think that there's something to be said for providing something that is, you know, absolutely the king of a well-defined set of things. And then it's always wonderful to have some whiz-bang product that, like, we can also do this. but I honestly don't think there's a whole lot of continuity when you go from, you know, what's possible in the 4 kilo range to what's necessary in the 14 kilo range. It's a totally different market, even if even if it's the same DP who gets the credit.
Yeah, typically it's budget to me. I mean, the big features that can afford camera cars and cranes and all that, you know, they need those big lenses. They don't go handheld with a 24 to 290. They never have. So it'll be on a dolly, it'll be on a whatever. But like Sash said, the trend has definitely been compact. You know, the Super 35, you know, we made the Alluras with Ari, and the compacts are definitely here to stay. There's no question. But a more workhorse lens, it's all about the size of the front element, how much of a zoom you can put in there and how fast it's going to be. So you want a good big zoom range, it's going to be big. But if it's going on a crane, who cares? So to a point, you know, there's matte boxes, there's all kinds of things. But there are two different schools, and the Primistas came out strong in the compact world. You can shoot a feature with these 3 lenses, a lot, most of them. But there's still a cry for, you know, longer zoom ranges, but it's still got to be fast. Well, what does that mean? That means big. So we can do big. If you look at Primistas, they're almost 20 pounds. The 24 to 290 is 24 pounds, and the Panavision is 26 pounds. It's not like these haven't been used and they won't continue to be used, but they're two different styles of shooting, or maybe budgets of shooting, I would say. Yeah.
With that, maybe Tom, can we share the LPL? There's a few questions about the LPL mount solution in the chat. Maybe we can share that. Oh, he had it queued up. I think Marco referred to Mr. Kasai, and certainly Tom did, as working very closely with Chuck in the early days of Fuji City. There he is, the legend, Mr. Kasai. But in terms of LPL mount solution, so given the reality of ARRI's well-engineered LPL mount and enabling their adapter in terms of using PL mount. So what we see here is a Premista with the LPL mount on it. What we see as being the issue is having that adapter as well as the camera mount with those two sets of ears on there, and introducing the opportunity for there to be an accidental removing of the adapter and then not having it. So it's those two ears that really, in our opinion, become the challenge at this stage of the game. So our solution is real simple. Really, we're taking that, removing the ears, mounting it onto the Premista PL mount lens. We're able to lock this down. And now, for all intents and purposes, your lens is an LPL lens. The /I metadata does pass through that. And off you go. So really it is a super clean solution. We don't feel the need to over-engineer it at this stage of the game, given that the simplicity that this offers. So that's our LPL solution.
And so that's a Fujinon product.
No, it's an Aeroflex product. We can sell it to you, but we buy it from Aeroflex and remove the ears and give you a torque wrench. But for us to handle it, it's going to be a lot more money. We would tell you,
right.
Just go to your friendly ARRI dealer and buy the mount and go with this solution.
Do all the adapters have the torque tie downs, or just certain ones? Do you know?
No, they all have them.
Okay.
And we went back and forth with the factory. I used to own a rental house, and to me, I want to have a lens that is flexible and is going to be able to work in the PL world and an LPL. And I said to the factory, we have to have a solution. And they started looking at building a whole mount and all the engineering with it. And then they came up with this solution. I think this is for right now, as Stosh said, in the evolution to LPL, I think this is a great, very practical solution.
It also helps rental houses not need to purchase separate LPL versions and PL versions, which they probably don't want to do.
I mean, what we do with our like our mini LFs, we just put a adapter in there and leave it in there and take the ears off. So same difference.
Just kind of the reverse, right? So essentially, for all intents and purposes, your mini LF is a PL mount camera based on that adapter being in there firmly.
Yeah. But it's a real issue if people do leave both sets of ears on. There's a lot of fumbling around. And potential for a lot of tragedy and damage.
If people are shooting with signatures, then they wouldn't necessarily want to do that. But then that's where this solution comes in. So you just leave it on all your Premista lenses, and no one needs to worry about whether you need to put an adapter on or not. The lens that's in the box over there has already got an LPL attached.
Right.
Philip, I think Tom covered why we're not doing the LPL mount specifically. Is that was that clear for you? I just saw your chat from Vantage. Hopefully. Well, I think I certainly, for those of you that were watching the chat, I put the links to both YouTube and Vimeo for both those tests. As Marco said, there was a ton of other setups that he shot during that test phase. And over time, we're looking to cut together some more of that content to help share it with everyone. So certainly keep tuned for that. I think we're excited in later in November, we'll have some added information around the whole extended data workflows as well that I believe we'll be excited to share with everyone. So watch for that coming in the near future.
And we have 2 short films that are being shot with the 19 to 45. Mark Cottrell, who's on the call from our UK office, Adam Shushinsky, BSc, is going to shoot a film in the UK. And Jody Williams, friend of mine here from Chicago, who shot Empire and Coming to America, the movie that's coming out sometime later this year or next year with Eddie Murphy. Jody's going to shoot a short film, and we're excited to show more footage. Than I appreciate Michael Kerner putting the lens on a camera, and it's great to see. As well as Marco, you having it in your hotel room in Munich. So thank you.
Marco, there's a question on here from Ilya. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Asking about any third-party 1.4, 1.6, or 2 times doublers that have been tested with Premista. I've not done that, but I think as part of your test the other day, that was something that was done, right?
No, actually not during the test, but during the prep for one project.
That's what I meant. Sorry, during the prep, not the actual test.
I used the Musashi expander successfully, and it did in fact beat the IBE expander that was available there on hand. But speaking to Klaus of IBE already quite a while ago, he built a new expander with, I think, even more lens elements, 2 times expander, 4 large format, that also really takes care of the corner image areas on a large format sensor. So that one would be the one to test against the Musashi one. Ari told me that the 2 times expander from IB is very good indeed, the new one. So I would probably stick to those 2 if I were you. With the other 1.4 time, 1.6, and 1.4 and 1.6 time expanders, I'm not so familiar, because mostly for 1.4 time expander, I wouldn't mostly bother because it's too close to the actual focal length that's already there.
There's the Musashi and an IBE.
Yeah, Philip. Yeah, Musashi was the one I was referring to.
And that's available from Duclos in the United States.
Yeah, and we've sorry, hold on. We've used the full frame IBE successfully, but not with the Fujinon Primistas yet. And I would imagine that they would be a good choice. Those 2 by IBE expander.
Yeah, and as almost everybody knows here, is that extenders or expanders, and there's a thin line, what they call those, distinguishing them. But you know, there, especially in the Super 35 world, there's huge differences in different manufacturers' extenders, and it's testing is what it's all about. And Fujinon's not making our own extenders. We do in broadcast. But third party, there are some really good companies that are on it, and that's important, but not all are the same. So it's always worthwhile to test.
So before we wrap out here and get to the final questions, I did want to just give Matthew Duclos the floor. Matthew's made a great little third-party product for our little MKs, and if you can just talk briefly about what you have. And I don't think a lot of this market's familiar with the MKs. Matthew, are you?
Sure. So the MKs, yeah, it's a completely different, it's the exact opposite end of the customer that will be looking at the Premistas. This is really the super lightweight, super compact, more affordable range that Fujinon makes. It's a fully manual lens, and it's a mirrorless lens by design. So it really appealed to us when Red announced their new Komodo camera with the RF mount. It would have been nice if the Komodo had an E mount, because it would have just worked seamlessly. But they went with the RF mount, so we thought this would be an ideal candidate, the Fuji MK lenses, to convert to RF mount, primarily because of the size and weight, like I said. So this, as far as I know, is sort of the first native mirrorless design zoom lens for RF mount. And we were really, really happy with the performance. So it just made sense for it to be converted to RF mount. So it's good coverage. There's a tiny bit of vignetting if you're at anything smaller than like a T8, T11, but and only on the wide end. It's gone by 20 millimeters or so.
And you say these lenses are budget minded. What did you think of the performance of these?
In terms of optics, I think they hold their own even against the Cabrios and the XK. There's really not, you're not losing any image quality by having a more affordable price. I think Fujinon probably saved a lot of money by making these in much, much larger quantities, because the same optics and most of the same internal components were used in the X mount version as well. So Fujinon can speak to that more than I can, but I assume it's a matter of economy of scale, being able to keep them more affordable. But the image quality is right up there with the other Fujinons.
So just jumping in there, honestly, from my side, I have to confess, I actually love this little 18 to 55 and the 50 to 135, because those lenses weigh in both at the same, like around 900 grams in my European metric system. I think if it's incorrect, please correct me.
About 2 pounds.
Tom. Two pounds. Yeah. Okay. And this is absolutely incredible because I use them in Super 35 crop on the Sony Venice with the Rialto module rigged into a car that was actual driving or actual driven by the actor himself. And it was a really tiny, neat little package, and they offered amazing quality, and nobody could distinguish it from our main lens choice, which were Samyluck C on that show, also in 4K crop on the Venice. And with the Rialto module, you're probably at 4.5, 5 pounds camera plus lens. This is absolutely incredible. Like, just take the PL mount of the Venice, use them directly on the E mount, and you really probably won't see any loss in quality. And I think we're not the only ones that use them on the Venice in the past for like moving rigs. Wasn't there?
That's very true. In fact, very, very big budget movies are using them right now. These are going big. These are going to big. These are going to big screens, so that's how good they are. I mean, against the Premista, they're Super 35 coverage, but yeah, they hold their own. The E mount is the secret why they can be so small. It's a short flange distance, but they are not a compromise in optical. It's amazing. They're not the longest zoom ranges, but they're pretty good ranges, and
they're very good ranges. Yeah,
they are cinematic. So, you know, Komodo and a $2,000 lens, you can go
4,000.
Sorry, 4,000.
On sale.
$4,000 lens, you can have a package that's hangs with the big boys, really.
Yeah, I think their size and weight is probably their biggest selling point. I mean, the optics are what they are. There's no compromise there. But if you're on a lightweight rig, whether it's a simple little A6300 or a Venice, Rialto, or even now the Komodo, there's really, you can't get much lighter and more compact with the same image quality with pretty much
the drone market too is embracing these. You know, the Komodo is going to be popular with drones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey Matthew, is that would rental houses be able to put on that adapter, or is this send the lens in for sure kind of thing to you guys?
We're starting out by only performing the conversion ourselves because it's a little in depth. But Carrie, I know your skill level. I'm sure you could do it if you wanted to.
I wasn't looking for that, but thanks.
Any other questions? I'll throw it back to Tom.
Matthew Ilya asked the question: can you convert the Fuji X mount version to the RF mount?
The X mount version is slightly different structurally. There's a lot of electronics in that lens. So I haven't dug into the back end of the X mount version, but I believe there are some different pieces that would not make our current components compatible. And then to Andrew's question, MK lenses and PL or EF, I must get that question almost once a week still.
Almost as
The
often as
MK
we do,
lenses
probably.
cannot and will not be converted to PL or EF. It's just not possible physically without redesigning 95% of the lens. So sorry.
And that's a virtue of that short flange, right?
No.
To
Well,
some
yes
degree?
and no. It's mostly because of the short flange, but also just because of the diameters of the actual chassis of the MK lenses. It's just not going to fit inside an EF mount.
And then Philip from Vantage wrote saying that he wants a native LPL mount. We certainly would love to sell lenses as a PL and a LPL mount, and that's something that, again, the factory is looking at down the road as LPL becomes more and more accepted. So I don't disagree with you that an adapter, that the way that we're doing it, is a perfect solution. But putting it on with that torque wrench, it really feels like it's an LPL mount. I was really surprised. I saw that we took those pictures at BSC Expo back in February, and I thought it was a really good solution.
And it also, like, it felt, I used it with the LPL mount. It really felt like a real mount, especially if you then detach the wings of the LPL mount to PL adapter. It really feels like a native LPL lens. I absolutely agree with you, Philip. I'm one of the customers who actually doesn't like adapters because I don't like multiple flanges to be adjusted. Because every surface that gets connected is another option for error and failure. So I absolutely agree. I would love to have it natively, but for us, we really never took that LPL adapter attached without the wings. We never took it off on like 8 weeks of shooting. So
we want to thank Michael and his whole team there, putting the camera on air. That was a great bonus. So thank you, everybody at Team Kerner. Thank you all for joining us. There's some email addresses on there if you want to reach out to us. And one of the things with the test, I don't know if we stressed it enough today, is we really encourage you to do your own tests. You know, go to somebody like a Kerner camera and test these for yourself and see, you know, what our lenses do. And we think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And
of course, a shout out to Josh Ewing, our colleague up in the Northwest there, who helped set this up with the Kerner team. Sadly, he wasn't able to get on video today, but he's with us via telephone.
In spirit.
In spirit. Thank you, Josh.
Well, thanks so much, you guys. It's an honor having Fujinon once again. We love the Fujinon folks, and I can't wait till everybody can get together again at a trade show. This is ridiculous. It's super fun, and we get to reach a lot of people this way, but it's more fun seeing everybody in person and being able to actually touch the equipment. So yeah, we're going to be continuing the Lens Summit series. No hard dates yet, but they're on Fridays at 10 Pacific time. We're going to have the Cine Lens app guys on, who I'm sure everybody's familiar with, from Portugal. So that's going to be pretty neat. And then down the road, I think we're going to have Chemical Wedding on with their Artemis Prime Finder, Nick Sadler. And then down the road, he'll also do the Caldwell Chameleon Anamorphics and you know, some other new lens manufacturers and other stuff. So it should be pretty fun. Keep a lookout, and we'll try to keep the website updated, lenssummit.com, and look on your social media feeds with Instagram and Facebook. This is being recorded to Facebook Live and will be posted for future viewing if you would like. And thanks a lot for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michael, for having us, and thank you, everybody, for joining.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hey, Brian. Nice to see you.
How you doing, Tom?
I'm good.
Good. You got two teams about to play the playoffs this baseball, huh?
Yeah, my White Sox are taking a dive here right at the end. So hopefully they get hot here.
You got 3 games left.
Yeah, against the Cubs. So that if we just beat the Cubs 3 in a row, then that's like winning the World Series to us.
Yeah.
And then we need our Bears to continue to be undefeated. They're the only team that is 2-0 that should have lost the first game and could have lost the second game.
Oh, better than ours.
Yeah.
Not pretty at all.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you. Thanks
soon.
everybody
Right
for
on.
joining.
See you guys later. Take care. You bet.
Thanks, Michael. Michael,
You bet.
thank you so much for allowing us to come back and do this. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Anytime.
All right.